The Empire was celebrating. Bright fireworks lit the sky over their capital worlds, casting colors across massive towers and gleaming spires. The streets below were packed with cheering citizens, waving banners that proclaimed victory over the scattered human colonies. For centuries, the Empire had considered humans weak, a primitive species barely worthy of notice. And now, after crushing the last of their known outposts, the galaxy believed humans were finished. In the grand halls of the Empire's command fleet, alien commanders laughed openly. Admiral Karan, his scales glinting under the hall's lights, leaned back in his chair. The humans? Gone. Wait. Nothing more than stories in the old logs, he said, his voice dripping with scorn. Around him, officers nodded, their expressions smug. They remembered the old tales of human resilience, but in their minds, those were just fairy tales. Legends of a tiny species that had somehow survived wars before, long ago. Now all proof of human stubbornness had been wiped away, or so they thought. But somewhere, far beyond the reach of their celebration, a small blip flickered across an old, forgotten sensor. A human signal. Tiny. Weak. Barely detectable. It pulsed rhythmically, a faint heartbeat echoing in the emptiness of space. It was simple, almost laughable to anyone who saw it, but it was persistent. Scout ships patrolled the sector and noticed the signal almost immediately. "Sir, there's a weak transmission in Quadrant 9-3, one young officer reported nervously. Pathetic, Admiral Karan scoffed. Ignore it. Sensors often pick up glitches near the debris fields. Humans are finished. This is nothing. The officer hesitated but did as commanded. The signal continued to flicker, unnoticed by most, but persistent like a spark that refuses to die. Across the galaxy, the humans were indeed scattered, living in hidden bases, in asteroids and derelict stations. They were weak in number but not in spirit. Far from surrendering, these survivors were quietly planning. They repaired old ships, scavenged technology and trained pilots. Every tiny action, every whisper of movement, went unnoticed by the Empire. They had learned to hide, to wait for the perfect moment. Back in the Empire, celebrations continued. Propaganda spread across the galaxy. Humans were weak, defeated, gone forever. Images of burning human colonies were projected in city squares. Children were told tales of Empire victory, of humans who had failed against their superior power. The Empire was confident. Yet, in the shadows of space, humans were not gone. The flickering signal was a warning, a subtle sign of the storm to come. Among the human survivors, Commander Lyra examined the old, patched-up sensor arrays. She frowned at the blinking light. "They think we are finished," she muttered, voice low. "Let them think. Let them enjoy their celebration. We have not forgotten. And we will not forgive." Lyra's crew worked in silence. Engineers adjusted the energy cores of old ships, making them faster and more powerful than they had been decades ago. Pilots trained tirelessly, practicing maneuvers that no enemy would expect. Even the youngest humans, children of colonies thought lost, learned the ways of the stars. They were small in number, yes, but clever, resourceful, dangerous in ways the Empire could not imagine. Meanwhile, in the Empire's fleet, the dismissive laughter began to fade. Reports kept coming of strange readings, unexplainable anomalies in sectors they controlled. "Another blip?" one officer asked, fear creeping into his voice. "Check again," Karan barked, though a flicker of unease passed over his face. He would not admit it, but something in the pattern was wrong. The audience watching this unfold, anyone paying attention, felt the tension building. The Empire believed itself untouchable. The humans were supposed to be finished. And yet, somewhere in the void, a spark remained. A signal. A warning. Something small, weak, but persistent. It was only a matter of time. In the hidden bases, humans prepared. In the Empire, they laughed. The galaxy did not know it yet, but the next chapter would not belong to the victors. Something was coming. Something sharp, clever, and utterly unexpected. And when the humans finally moved, the Empire would realize the truth too late. For now, the stars remained calm, the signal pulsing quietly through space. But it was a heartbeat. And heartbeats grow into storms. The Empire's celebrations echoed across the galaxy. Fireworks lit alien cities. Citizens cheered. Everywhere, the Empire's leaders proclaimed humans were defeated, their colonies destroyed, their fleets gone forever. Yet far from the capital worlds, hidden in the dark pockets of space, a different story was unfolding. In an asteroid field near the edge of the galaxy, a small fleet of human ships moved silently. They were patched together from wreckage and scavenged technology, but to any observer they seemed insignificant. To the Empire they were nothing. To the humans they were hope. Commander Lyra walked the narrow corridors of the largest ship, the Sentinel. Her boots clicked against the metal floor as she passed engineering bays, crew quarters and training rooms. Every human aboard worked in quiet precision. Engineers adjusted energy cores, pilots ran simulations, and scouts plotted possible routes for surprise attacks. Every action had a purpose. Every move was calculated. "Commander, the engines are ready," said a young engineer, wiping sweat from her brow. "We can travel at twice our usual speed if needed." Lyra nodded. "Good. Keep it silent. The Empire must not notice until we are ready." Despite being scattered and small in number, the humans were not weak. Every base, every ship, every hidden station was part of a larger network. Information flowed between them like blood in a body. They shared maps, intelligence, and battle plans. They trained constantly, refining their skills to perfection. A group of young pilots stood in a hangar, practicing maneuvers with small fighter ships. Their movements were precise, swift, unpredictable. Some were children, born in hiding, who had never seen a fully functioning human colony. Yet their determination was clear. They had been taught one thing above all else: humans never give up. Lyra entered the strategy room, where holographic projections of the Empire's fleets floated in the air. She studied the positions of the enemy's patrols, bases, and trade routes. "We strike where they least expect it," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Small attacks, precise strikes. Every loss they think they've caused us is only temporary. Every gain we make will be invisible until it's too late." The crew nodded. They understood. The Empire's confidence was their greatest weapon. The aliens laughed at humanity, believing the species defeated, while humans moved like shadows through the stars. Meanwhile, sensors aboard the Sentinel flickered, detecting something unusual. A faint energy source glimmered in a distant sector. "Commander," said a technician, pointing at the readings, "we might have found something, an old energy cache left behind by one of their mining colonies." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Good. It's time we take advantage of it. Every resource counts. We cannot fight a full fleet openly, but we can fight smart. We can hit them where it hurts most." The human fleet began quietly moving toward the sector. They avoided patrol routes, used asteroid cover, and disabled communications to remain invisible. Every step was silent, calculated, and deliberate. For the Empire, nothing seemed out of place. Their scouts detected nothing unusual. Every officer dismissed minor anomalies as glitches or debris. Back in the Empire, Admiral Karan's laughter filled the command hall. "Humans? Gone. We finished. There is nothing left for us to fear," he boasted. His officers cheered, though a few looked uneasy. Strange reports had been coming in, blips, anomalies, missing patrols, but no one dared challenge the Admiral. In the human fleet, however, determination grew stronger every hour. Commander Lyra gathered her officers. "We do not strike to show power. We strike to survive and reclaim what is ours. The Empire thinks we are gone. That is our advantage. They have forgotten who we are." The crew nodded silently. There was no fear, only focus. Humans had survived against odds impossible to imagine. Their colonies had been destroyed. Their ships shattered. Yet here they were, hidden in the shadows, preparing a war the Empire could not even see coming. For months humans moved like ghosts. They repaired ships, tested new weapons, and gathered intelligence. They intercepted supply lines and disrupted communications in ways so small that the Empire never noticed. But with every tiny victory, confidence grew. Humans remembered the old stories of resilience, and they were living those stories now. One night, while Lyra stared out at the stars, she spoke softly to herself, almost as if the void could hear her. "They think we are weak. They think we are gone. Let them laugh. Soon they will see the truth." Somewhere far away, an Empire scout ship flickered past, sensors failing to detect the human fleet moving stealthily. The Empire remained unaware, celebrating their supposed victory, oblivious to the storm that was building just beyond their reach. In the dark of space, hidden among the rocks and shadows, humans were preparing. Not for survival alone, but for revenge. The Empire believed the war was over. They were wrong. The next chapter had already begun. And when humans finally struck, the galaxy would never forget it. The darkness of space stretched endlessly, a perfect cover for those who moved silently. The human fleet, though small, drifted like shadows between asteroids, invisible to scanners and sensors. Commander Lyra stood on the bridge of the Sentinel, eyes fixed on the holographic map of the Empire's patrol routes. This was the moment they had waited for. Our target is the mining station in Sector 12, Lyra said, voice calm but sharp. It's lightly defended. The Empire will not expect an attack here. Precision is everything, strike fast, vanish faster. The pilots nodded, gripping controls with white-knuckled focus. These were young humans, some barely out of training, yet skilled beyond what the Empire could imagine. Their movements were fluid, coordinated, almost instinctive. They had practiced this attack for weeks in simulations, memorizing every maneuver, anticipating every possible enemy reaction. Outside, the human ships slipped through asteroid fields, weaving past patrolling drones and energy sensors. The Empire considered the humans gone. They never suspected anyone could reach this point undetected. And yet, here they were, ready to deliver the first blow. 10 seconds to strike, Lyra announced. She took a deep breath. Remember, we fight not for glory but for survival. Hit them hard, then disappear. No ship left behind. The attack began. Human fighters darted from hiding spots like shadows come alive, striking precise energy pulses at the station's power cores. Explosions erupted silently, lights flickered, and alarms screamed across the facility. Within moments, the mining station was crippled. Vital machinery was destroyed. Supply lines cut. The Empire had no idea who, or what, had done it. From the observation deck of an Empire cruiser nearby, Commander Terrell watched the chaos unfold on his monitors. What is happening? He stammered. Sensors show no fleet in the area, yet the station is destroyed. His officers exchanged worried glances. One muttered, could it be survivors? Humans? Terrell laughed nervously. Impossible. They are finished. There is no human fleet left. Must be a technical failure. Reported as such. Meanwhile, the human ships had already begun their retreat. They moved like phantoms, disappearing into asteroid cover. No shots were returned. The Empire's forces could not react in time. Lyra watched the operation unfold with careful satisfaction. Every strike, every disruption, every sabotage was a reminder. Humans were clever, unpredictable, and dangerous. As the fleet regrouped, sensors detected an approaching Empire patrol ship. Commander, a young pilot said, one cruiser heading straight for us. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. Good. Let it come. It will teach them to fear the ghosts they think are gone. The cruiser moved in, confident and powerful, its energy weapons primed. But the humans were ready. With a coordinated maneuver, they led the cruiser into a narrow asteroid pass. The cruiser's massive hull clipped against rocks and debris, scrambling its navigation systems. A precise energy pulse from a hidden human ship disabled the cruiser's engines. Within minutes, it was drifting, powerless, while the humans vanished once again into the void. Back on Empire worlds, panic began to ripple through the command halls. Reports of destroyed stations, missing patrols, and damaged cruisers appeared in rapid succession. Admiral Karan frowned, irritation turning to concern. This is impossible. How can they exist? We destroyed every human colony. Every ship. They were gone. One officer, barely daring to speak, said, Sir, perhaps they were not as weak as we thought. Perhaps they survived in secret. Karan slammed his clawed hand onto the console. No, that is absurd. Humans cannot strike like this. Investigate immediately. Find them. But the humans had no intention of being found. They had struck, sent their warning, and retreated before the Empire could react. Their fleet moved silently, leaving behind only confusion, fear, and unanswered questions. In the human command ship, Lyra addressed her crew. This was only the beginning, she said. They believe they have won. They do not. Our strike shows that even small numbers, clever minds, and careful planning can shake the mightiest fleet in the galaxy. We fight smart. We fight fast. And the Empire will never know what hit them, until it is too late. The young pilots cheered silently, fists pumping, hearts racing. They were part of something greater than themselves, part of a hidden war that the galaxy thought had ended long ago. Even as the Empire scrambled to respond, humans moved to new positions. Supplies were collected, ships repaired, and intelligence gathered for the next strike. The Shadow War had begun, and the humans were the hunters. Somewhere, in a distant Empire capital, whispers began to spread. Stories of phantom ships, invisible attackers, and unstoppable precision reached the ears of civilians and commanders alike. Panic mixed with disbelief. The Empire had crushed humans once, yes, but now evidence suggested they were alive. And far worse, they were clever, fast, and everywhere the Empire was not. Lyra stared at the stars ahead. "This is only the first strike," she said softly. "The Empire laughs, thinking humans are finished. Let them laugh. When they realize the truth, it will be too late." The fleet moved silently through the darkness, leaving behind chaos but no trace. The Empire remained blind to the growing threat, unaware that the humans they thought were weak were preparing something that would change the galaxy forever. The unexpected war had begun. And humanity's revenge, swift and precise, had only just started. The Empire had never felt fear like this before. Reports were flooding in from distant sectors. Mining stations destroyed, patrol ships missing, communication arrays sabotaged. Entire supply lines had vanished without warning. The aliens tried to rationalize it, blaming equipment failures or rogue pirates. But deep inside, a creeping dread was spreading among the ranks. The humans were back. Admiral Karan slammed his clawed hand onto the control panel in the command hall of the flagship Dominion's Pride. "Impossible," he bellowed. "We crushed every human colony, every fleet, and yet, they strike again." Officers exchanged uneasy glances. One timidly spoke, "Sir, it's not just one attack. Multiple systems report similar incidents. Humans, if they exist, are everywhere." Karan's tail flicked in irritation. "I said enough excuses. Find them. Destroy them. No matter where they hide, we will hunt them down." But the humans were nowhere to be found. In the shadows of space, hidden among asteroids, abandoned stations, and deep nebulae, the human fleet moved like phantoms. Commander Lyra guided the ships with precision, striking quickly at critical points of the Empire's supply network. Each attack was brief, calculated, and devastating. No human ship was ever caught. Small outposts were the first to fall. Power grids failed. Shield generators melted down. Supply convoys never reached their destinations. The Empire scrambled to respond, but for every human strike they tried to counter, 2 more followed in another sector. Lyra watched as reports came in from her pilots. Sector 14 neutralized. Supply convoy destroyed. No human loss. "Good," she said, eyes narrowing. "Next target, communications array in Sector 23. The Empire must not know our positions. Confusion is our ally." In a distant Empire city, citizens stared at flickering hollow boards showing strange anomalies. Factory shipments delayed. Energy grids unstable. Military bases reporting missing patrols. Panic began to spread, though propaganda insisted humans were gone. Meanwhile, back on the human flagship, Lyra gathered her officers. "We are small in number," she reminded them, "but we are clever. Every Empire ship we destroy, every base we cripple, shows them that humans are not to be taken lightly. They will think twice before attacking any colony again." Engineers worked tirelessly, modifying old energy cannons and weapons salvaged from past battles. Pilots ran new maneuvers and simulations, preparing for ambushes, hit-and-run strikes, and sudden retreats. Every ship, every crew member knew their role in the growing campaign. The Empire, confident for centuries, now struggled to defend its sprawling territories. Systems that had been considered safe were suddenly under attack. Convoys vanished en route to distant colonies. Patrols were ambushed in asteroid belts. Entire communication networks went dark for hours, only to flicker back with reports of missing ships and destroyed stations. In the chaos, whispers began among Empire officers. Rumors of the Ghost Fleet spread rapidly. Some whispered that the humans had found secret energy sources, new weapons, or ancient technology lost in the centuries past. Others claimed the humans had evolved in ways the Empire could not understand. All agreed on one terrifying truth: humans were no longer weak. Lyra smiled faintly as she reviewed the latest reports. "They think they can stop us," she said. "They underestimate us. Every strike leaves them weaker, confused, and afraid. Let them panic. Let them scramble. That fear is ours to use." Even children in the hidden human colonies were being trained. They learned to pilot small scout ships, repair vital machinery, and understand tactics. Every human, no matter how young, contributed to the campaign. They were small in number, yes, but unmatched in determination and cunning. In a far corner of the Empire, a young officer pleaded with his superior. "Sir, we need to reconsider our strategy. We cannot hunt them directly. We are reacting, always reacting. They are always one step ahead." The superior officer shook his head, panic flickering across his features. "Impossible. Humans are weak. They cannot coordinate such widespread attacks." Back on the Sentinel, Lyra studied the stars. "Weak?" she murmured. "No. We are stronger than they ever imagined. Clever. Faster. We strike, vanish and strike again. We are the storm they cannot see coming. As the human fleet prepared for their next series of attacks, the Empire's forces were stretched thin. Desperation replaced arrogance. Every fleet dispatched to hunt the humans returned damaged, lost or empty. The Empire's confidence had been shattered in weeks, replaced with fear and uncertainty. Lyra turned to her officers. Soon they will realize the mistake they made. They laughed when they thought we were gone. They celebrated their victory. But we are not gone. And when they finally understand, it will be too late. The humans had transformed their weakness into strength, their invisibility into a weapon. The Empire's power, once absolute, now trembled under the shadow of clever, determined humans striking from nowhere. And so the siege continued. Hidden fleets struck, crippled, and vanished. Supply lines failed. Patrols were destroyed. Entire sectors were plunged into chaos. The Empire could not comprehend the scale, nor anticipate the next target. Every human action sent the same clear message. The Empire had underestimated them. Humanity was back. And humanity would not stop until the galaxy remembered their name. Word count, 880. Features: strong suspense and tension. Humans execute multiple strikes, making the Empire panic. Third person, simple English, easy for narration. Audience sees humans' cleverness and Empire's fear increasing. Perfect setup for Part 5, Humanity's Final Weapon. I can now write Part 5, Humanity's Final Weapon, where humans reveal their ultimate secret that could destroy entire fleets, keeping maximum suspense and engagement for your audience. The Empire's panic had grown into outright terror. Their fleets were stretched across dozens of sectors, trying to defend trade routes, supply lines, and distant colonies. Reports of destroyed ships and crippled stations flooded every command center. The galaxy's most powerful civilization was no longer laughing. They were scrambling, desperate to understand the invisible enemy striking them at will. Commander Lyra stood on the bridge of the Sentinel, watching the holographic map of the Empire's territory. Red dots indicated destroyed fleets, damaged stations, and disrupted communications. For months, humans had struck swiftly and vanished. Now it was time for the next stage, the ultimate weapon. Prepare the main cannon, Lyra ordered. Her voice was calm, but the crew sensed the weight of her command. The humans had discovered an energy source unlike any the galaxy had seen, a concentrated pulse of quantum energy capable of obliterating massive fleets in an instant. This weapon had been hidden for decades, refined in secrecy, and now it would change the war forever. The young pilots, engineers, and tacticians moved quickly, their years of training and preparation converging on a single purpose. Every calculation was precise. Every maneuver designed to maximize impact and minimize risk. Humans were not just fighting, they were planning a strike that would leave the Empire shaken to its core. In the Empire's capital, Admiral Karan paced the hall. "We have lost more ships this month than in any battle before," he growled. "And yet, no human fleet has been seen. Where are they hiding? How are they striking us so effectively?" His officers were silent, fear etched on their faces. The whispers of a ghost fleet had become widespread. Some suggested that the humans had uncovered ancient weapons. Others believed they had evolved in ways the Empire could not predict. Every theory seemed impossible, yet the evidence was undeniable. Humans were destroying the Empire in ways no one had thought possible. Back on the human flagship, Lyra gave her crew the final instructions. "We strike at the heart of their fleet in Sector 19. Their command ships will be there. This is not just a strike, it is a message. We show them that humans are no longer weak, no longer scattered. We are the force they ignored at their own peril." The fleet moved silently through the void, slipping past patrols and avoiding detection. Empire sensors, distracted by attacks in other sectors, registered nothing unusual. The humans were ghosts, shadows moving among the stars. As they approached the enemy fleet, the humans activated the main cannon. Its energy pulse began to charge, a bright hum filling the corridors of the Sentinel. Lyra's eyes narrowed, watching the readings climb. One perfect shot could destroy dozens of Empire ships in seconds. The Empire fleet was unprepared. Their sensors failed to detect the energy buildup. Commanders assumed their forces were secure. Admiral Karan, confident as ever, monitored his screens, unaware of the storm about to strike. Then the cannon fired. A brilliant pulse of pure energy shot across space, faster than anything the Empire had ever experienced. Ships that had dominated entire sectors were obliterated instantly. The fleet commander in charge of Sector 19 could only watch in horror as his battleships melted into nothingness. Explosions tore across the formation, leaving nothing behind. Panic spread like wildfire. Admiral Karan slammed his console. Impossible. No weapon can do this. Report. Report immediately. Officers scrambled, but the human fleet had already vanished. The pulse had struck and disappeared as if it had never been there. For the first time in centuries, the Empire realized the truth. Humans were no longer the species they had underestimated. On the Sentinel, Lyra allowed herself a small smile. They thought victory meant the end of humans. They were wrong. This is only the beginning. Engineers began preparing the cannon for the next target, pilots ran simulations for new strikes, and strategists plotted the Empire's weakest points. Every human action was deliberate. Every strike sent a clear message. Underestimate us and the cost will be total destruction. In distant sectors, Empire officers debated what had just happened. Some suggested surrender, others called for retaliation. But no one knew where the humans were hiding or how to stop them. Every plan failed before it could even begin. The humans were everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Lyra looked at her crew. "Remember this," she said softly. "They laughed when they thought we were finished. They celebrated their victory. But now we have turned the tide. And when the galaxy truly understands who humans are, they will never forget our name." Even as the Empire struggled to regroup, humans moved to new positions, ready to strike again. Supply lines, patrol routes, and command centers, all were targets in a war the aliens had never expected. The humans were no longer the hunted. They were the hunters, clever, precise, and unstoppable. And somewhere, in the silent depths of space, the pulse of humanity's power continued to grow. The Empire had believed they had won. They had believed humans were weak. But now, as their fleets burned and their cities trembled under the invisible strike, the truth was undeniable. Humanity's final weapon was just the beginning of a revenge that would reshape the galaxy. The Empire's confidence had crumbled. Their fleets were shattered, supply lines broken, and distant colonies left vulnerable. For centuries they had believed humans were weak, scattered, and unworthy of concern. Now, every report, every destroyed ship, every failed patrol reminded them of a harsh, undeniable truth. Humans were clever, relentless, and unstoppable. Commander Lyra stood on the bridge of the Sentinel, staring at the holographic map of the Empire's capital world. Every fleet, every defense station, and every energy shield was marked. The Empire was scrambling, trying to regroup after months of precise, devastating attacks. And now it was time for the final strike. "Prepare the fleet," Lyra commanded. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of inevitability. "This is the end of their arrogance. Today humanity will remind the galaxy that we are not the species to be mocked." The young pilots of the hidden human fleet readied their ships. Every fighter, bomber, and scout moved into position. Engineers ran final checks on weapons, ensuring each pulse, each energy shot, and each missile would strike with perfect precision. Humans had learned patience, strategy, and stealth, and now all of it would be used at once. In the Empire's capital, Admiral Karan paced the hall. Reports of strikes continued to pour in. Entire fleets disappeared without warning. Energy shields failed. Command centers were sabotaged. Panic had replaced arrogance, fear had replaced confidence. "We cannot hold them back." Karan roared, but no solution came. His officers stared at the screens, silent, helpless. The humans struck with perfect timing. Hidden fleets emerged from nebulae, asteroid belts, and forgotten warp routes. The Empire's defenses barely had time to react. Shields flickered, fleets fired desperately, and alarms screamed across every command station. But the humans were faster, smarter, and everywhere the Empire did not expect. Lyra guided the first wave to the orbital defenses surrounding the Empire's capital world. Energy cannons fired, intercepted by the human fleet with maneuvering that seemed impossible. Fighters darted between massive battleships, striking key points with deadly precision. Stations exploded, debris scattering into space. Every move had been anticipated, every defense neutralized. On the surface of the capital world, civilians and military personnel alike watched in disbelief. Systems thought secure were crumbling. Messages and signals failed. Panic spread among the Empire's population. For the first time in centuries, the people realized their leaders had underestimated humans. Lyra activated the main cannon once more, the same quantum energy pulse that had obliterated fleets in distant sectors. This time, its target was the heart of the Empire's naval command. Ships dissolved in bright light. Commanders vanished. The Empire's communication network went dark. Entire fleets became ghosts in the void of space. "Sir," one officer muttered to Admiral Karan. We We are losing everything. Karan's face turned pale. His claws clenched, but no action could reverse the damage. Months of Empire arrogance had collapsed under the invisible, relentless strike of humans who had been dismissed as weak. Lyra's fleet moved silently to secure control of strategic points. Supply stations were captured, key planets liberated, and enslaved colonies freed. Messages were sent across the galaxy. Humans were back, humans were strong, and the Empire's power was no longer absolute. In the aftermath of the final strike, Lyra allowed herself a small smile. "They laughed at us," she said softly, voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's engines. "They celebrated their victory. But we are here. We survived. And now they will know the cost of underestimating humanity." Across the galaxy, whispers spread. The Empire's citizens and soldiers alike talked of the humans who had returned from hiding, cleverer, faster, and stronger than anyone imagined. They spoke of a species that had been mocked and ignored, only to rise with intelligence, strategy, and courage unmatched by any other. Even in distant human colonies, young pilots and engineers celebrated quietly. They had participated in something extraordinary. The humans who were once weak and scattered had reclaimed their place in the stars. Every victory, every clever maneuver, every sacrifice had led to this moment. The Empire humbled, their arrogance shattered, the galaxy's attention focused squarely on humanity. Lyra looked out at the stars, the silent void beyond the bridge windows. "We have not just survived," she said. "We have shown the galaxy that humans are a force to be reckoned with. And this is only the beginning." For the first time in centuries, humanity smiled last. Not out of revenge alone, but from triumph, cleverness, and survival against odds the galaxy had considered insurmountable. The Empire's laughter, once so deafening, had been silenced. And humanity had proven that no species, no matter how powerful, could underestimate their determination. The human fleet regrouped, ready to continue their campaign if necessary. Every pilot, engineer, and commander knew that the galaxy had witnessed something remarkable. They had been underestimated, mocked, and dismissed. And yet, against all odds, they had not only survived, they had triumphed. As Lyra prepared her fleet for the next mission, one thought echoed in her mind. The Empire had believed victory meant the end of humanity. They were wrong. Humanity had returned, cleverer, stronger, and unstoppable. And the galaxy would remember their name forever.